Father Fabio, for about 4 years I separated, not because of my fault, but for my husband's things. I always believed that marriage should be forever. Father, since then I have never received communion because I know the church is against divorce. Once, when I confessed, the priest told me that over time I could receive communion. Once I told you, I haven't forgiven my husband yet. And he told me that the lack of forgiveness was imperative, right? But that over time, this forgiveness would come. Father, I can't say that I have forgiven. I still suffer a lot from certain situations and the wound has not yet healed. But at the same time, I suffer because I would like to receive communion. I go to masses and always distress, asking God for forgiveness for all the sins I think I have committed in my life. You see, this person has no hindrance, because I already got to know her situation a little though. There is no problem for communion because it has not contracted another marriage, right? She is a person who divorced. We do not know. And she doesn't have another husband. So it's no problem with the Eucharist for her. She does not live in adultery. Has no hindrance. What he had said was that she actually needed to go through the experience of forgiveness to receive Jesus. I particularly think, guys, that sometimes we have a very wrong understanding of the Eucharist. Sometimes we have that feeling that the Eucharist has to be received by pure people. It's true. It is a valid theology. But you see, if we think about the word of Jesus when he tells us that he came to the sick, wouldn't the Eucharist here be a medicine for this forgiveness to come? Sometimes I keep thinking that we deprive themselves from the Eucharist when, in fact, it is the medicine to heal what we need. I can't believe that I get away from the Eucharist just because I still couldn't forgive a cause for me to be distant from the Eucharist. Even because I have to believe it, right? I like to believe that. It's not that I have to believe it. I like to believe that Jesus is precisely the complement of my absences. Each time I get it in the Eucharist, I bring into myself what I lack. It is beautiful to think that the Eucharist is the process of configuration of the human to Christ. It is the Christification that happens in me the moment I receive the Eucharist. So I don't see any problems, honey, that you are healing your lack of forgiveness with your own Eucharist. Even if you take this conscience, I need to overcome the limit. I need to forgive my husband inside of me. Then the Eucharist becomes a medicine. Even because you would live this Eucharist, I'm sure, by your account, for what I know of your story, you would live very honestly and seriously this encounter with Jesus. Then we could say, Father, but what about that person who contracted another marriage, who is living with another person? Here, my people, we needed to clarify something that sometimes lacks within our speech. Clarify. We have two real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. If I cannot commune, I am not deprived of the real presence of Jesus, because the Word is a real presence as well. So beautiful you think that each time you read the Gospel, you have sacramentally the real presence of Jesus in what he speaks. It's simple for you to understand that. When you get a letter from someone on the other side of the world, isn't that person real in your hands the moment you read the letter? Everything she tells you, you can cry. You are moved by the words that were written because there was a bridge. The distance was overcome. The words fulfill the craft of making it close to the one that is distant. I am particularly adept at the Word. I like the Word. I find we fantastic. We think that life can be different. There are a lot of living people who have died. It is not how it works. The challenge of religion is precisely to blow wind within us. Blow the breath that keeps us. Is it so fruitful that you identify in life? What are the realities that keep you alive? What are the situations that blow soul in your body? This is the context of religions. When we leave home with the intention of praying, another thing we don't want, but to blow soul in our body. Seek elements, rites that help us to live. Because when God truly happens in our hearts, he modifies above all our will. My people, we are so impoverished that our poverty is evidenced precisely in our lack of time. If you are doing an analysis, who is rich? Most of the rich who have money I know, they don't have time. They don't have time for them. They don't have time for their joys. But it is not a privilege only of the wealthy. No. So do we? How are we lacking time? And suddenly you are placed before a God who has time for you, who is not in a hurry to hear you. That is, not in a hurry. Someone who is willing to hear you. Because the non-perception of time deprives us of living the most special things in life. Generally, those who do not have the perception of time have the need to have special dates for this, and for that, and only lives at the time of the special date. And the routine, which is what is every day, that is this opportunity we have to celebrate the minor of events, to make life always special. Simple fact that we are together. That's it. It's about it. Living well, our relationship with time, because life is a bullet train, a partner. And when less we wait, it's time to leave. And then we start bitter, because we don't go at once. This departing is procedural. I'm always leaving, but there comes a time in life when I really realize that I am leaving. My youth does not allow me to realize that I am leaving. But as time accumulates in us, consciousness is keen to realize that it is leaving. And that's the time. It is the moment when the invoice comes naturally in the hands, and we inevitably need to look at the result of live life. I plant an orange foot. I can't wait for strawberries. Sometimes people plant orange and want to harvest strawberry and think God is forced to give them the strawberries. It's just a made of shame in the face. And we will see that we are asking what we don't ask for. Ah, priest. But what about that story that God makes the impossible? I have the right to wait for the impossible. But I just... Oh, for impossible. So if the cross is heavy, you don't have to complain about the cross. It's part of my life. If you see, we are all here somehow carrying a cross. This is no more beautiful than the others. Why wouldn't you have to carry one too? And the cross, it is directly linked to what they have chosen for us, or what we chose. It's no use. Sometimes I come across some choices I make in my daily life that are absolutely contrary to the act of blowing life within me. Sometimes I realize myself killing myself. What I choose to read or what I choose to pay attention to. If you go on the internet to seek content, you have a lot of good content. But what unfortunately catches our attention is not the content. It is futility. It is nonsense. It is life on the other. It is the trip that the other made. How do we educate the will and desire? How do I work for my desire to forward me? Because desire is the drive that leads me, so that it takes me to what can actually do me good. And doing me good, naturally, it is good for those next to me. We waste too much time with what is not important in our lives. And suddenly, what is shouting for our attention not close to us, we cannot go by. Saramago, in one of the last interviews he gave, a beautiful documentary, at the end, several reporters next to him. A question, Saramago. Have you ever got so many awards? You were so awarded. What would you still like to win at this stage of life? He stopped, thought, and answered, time. I would like to earn time. That's it, my people. It's the greatest wealth a human being today can have. It's time. See? To read the work you would like to read, to be in the place you would like to be able to do what you would like to do. Value yours, even when the cross weighs us, even when life is difficult. No, God will not remove from us what humanly we need to face. But fate, it ends up acting as a battle instrument. Do not expect God to make your life easier. Just as a father cannot make life easier for his child because it would be irresponsible, because he would prevent him from maturing, it will support. Oh, yes. Then we are talking about a mature faith. I do not deprive myself of suffering because humanly he cannot deprive me. They are choices. This crisis is fundamental. There suddenly you are spending a crisis in your work with the people who are close to you, a marriage crisis, a crisis in that friendship. Everything, if you want, is a determining factor for changing directions, from perspectives. It is like being expelled from paradise, but it doesn't give up. Don't give up just because a crisis is passing. It doesn't give up just because it was expelled from that convenience you were living before. Exercises your creativity and allow this God who accesses us through feelings, thoughts, can help us understand what we are living. Yes, very naturally. The crisis is fundamental to our growth. In psychology, we even have normative crises. What are normative crises? These are the crises without which you do not change phase. If you do not live the normative crisis of adolescence, you will be eternally a childish, wanting the world to adapt to your desires, your wills, your colors, your sizes. Then comes the middle-aged crisis. You started to realize that everything is falling. It's not as it was before. Have you noticed? When we have youth in our favor, you have so much around. Youth is so full of opportunities that you do not realize that you are leaving, even though you have already entered the world leaving. Living the first day is one less day. The child has a year. She's a year less. If you want to look at the opposite, because we don't know how much time you will. I know the time I don't have anymore. You realize, I know conversion is not measurable. You can't ask for a ruler to talk to. I want to know how much share you, Christian. But we can have indications. If you want to analyze the quality of religious life in you, just look at your desires. What do you still want? What do you really want? Is it the question of Jesus to the Martimaeus? Martime, what do you want me to do? And so a great anguish, because of this pace of life, we are not having the ability to choose. We lose the right to choose. It is precisely one of the most conflicting points for us in the exercise of our inner freedom. It is when you are no longer able to choose. And that's why we need to be aware of the context where we are planted.